Taoiseach, you told us yesterday that a group within An Garda Síochána, maybe a secret group, has been bugging Gardaí, Irish citizens and their lawyers for several decades. And when I heard this, it sounded to me like the actions of the old Stasi in eastern Germany. And the implications, as we all know, for cases before the courts and for existing sentences are unknown but maybe profound. And Taoiseach, we've had allegations of GSOC being bugged. We've had the penalty points report. We've had the whistleblowers being smeared, both by their own commissioner and by Minister Shatter. We've had the resignation of the commissioner, and now we have news of widespread bugging. Taoiseach, yesterday's news has shocked an already demoralised police force and has undoubtedly further eroded public trust in An Garda Síochána. Now, the task ahead is Herculean in terms of driving very substantial change in An Garda Síochána and rebuilding trust, not just of the public, but of rank-and-file Gardaí in their own police force. Now, I actually have a great deal of respect for Minister Shatter as a legislator. I think his insolvency legislation is probably the single most important thing that this government has done to solve the mortgage crisis. But the challenges ahead, Taoiseach, need to be led by a minister who commands the respect of An Garda Síochána, commands the respect of the Oireachtas, and commands the respect of the public. And regrettably, it is very clear that Minister Shatter is no longer that person. Taoiseach, there's simply too many questions. Why did the Attorney-General go to you rather than to the Minister? Why is the Minister still not withdrawn his remarks about the whistleblowers? Why is the Minister still not called on the former Commissioner to withdraw his outrageous remarks about the whistleblowers? Why did the Minister attack GSOC when it raised concerns about being bugged? Why did the Minister fire the confidential recipient for doing his job? Why did the Minister use confidential information to smear Deputy Wallace on national television? Why is the Attorney-General not willing to discuss sensitive information with the leader of this country by telephone? The Minister, Taoiseach, does not have the trust of rank-and-file Gardaí. He does not have the trust of the Oireachtas. He does not have the trust of GSOC, and he does not have the trust of the public, and he would appear not to have the trust of the Attorney-General. Taoiseach, he may have your trust, but that's not enough for what needs to happen. So I would ask you, as well as many others, will you put the interests of An Garda Síochána and the interests of the public ahead of your loyalty to Minister Shatter and ask for him to step back based on the amount of work that has to be done and the person who is going to be needed to drive that work? Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Donnelly. What I will do is put the interest of our citizens and our country ahead of everything else. Government, minister, or any individual minister. That's what's important here. And that's why I decided to take the action that I took. Now, you mentioned a list of things here. If the Minister for Justice had no relationship whatsoever with the former Commissioner of the Gardaí and was continuously at loggerheads with him, you'd have a very different story to tell. You all say the too close a relationship. The Minister has a duty. The Minister of the day has a duty with the Commissioner of the day to hear the complaints and anxieties and concerns about the running of the Garda Síochána, which is the remit of the Commissioner of the Gardaí. The Minister will deal with the question of the whistleblowers when he speaks on the Inspector's report. The Minister said himself, and was the first to do so, Deputy Donnelly, that GSOC, in the way that it was set up, could not function to its full potential and was inadequate in a number of respects, and that's why he wants to change it, and that's why there's an Oireachtas committee looking at these things. That's also why the position of the confidential recipient was abolished, because that process didn't work either, and because of the particular circumstances that applied there. The Minister was big enough to apologise to Deputy Wallace and say that he was sorry. The question of the Attorney-General speaking to me about a matter as grave as this by telephone is one that I respect. Not speaking by telephone is one that I respect. I've made this point myself before on many occasions. If things of this nature are to be discussed, well then they should be presented on a face-to-face basis. I mean, Deputy Donnelly, let me say this to you. Genuinely, if I were to come in here this week in the ordinary way and deal with the question of the remarks made by the previous commissioner and by the minister in the Dáil, and have our political rows and pretend to you that everything was fine. Everything is not fine. So it's got to be dealt with. It's got to be dealt with in a way that builds a system where there's belief and faith and integrity. And that's why I felt it important to inform the cabinet members, to inform the leaders of the opposition about the implications of what's involved here. And that's why the discovery process dealing with a particular case will bring to light issues contained on tapes that are critical, put it that way. And I think it's important that I fed that into the system and that people would understand we need to change that system, and that's why the government made very clear decisions yesterday, and we'll follow on from those and implement them. What I want to see in the shortest possible time is a system where the members of the force have absolute pride in the job that they do, those who commit themselves to protection of our citizens from criminal or other activities, and that those who find that there is something wrong have a system of being protected and respected for what they do, in the interest of having a system that runs in the way that we would expect it in the 21st century. Thank you for your contribution.
Thanks, Ken Taoiseach. Thank you for your answer. And just to be clear, I'm not questioning any of your actions in this at all. Taoiseach, you're known as a man who values loyalty, and you're known as a man who is loyal to his friends and to his colleagues, which is admirable. But Taoiseach, this issue isn't about loyalty. This is about an incredibly difficult and important piece of work that has to be done to drive long-term meaningful change in An Garda Síochána and to rebuild public trust, which has been shattered in An Garda Síochána. Now, Minister Shatter, I was here for his statement earlier on. There's a lot of good things he could have said, but Taoiseach, he used the opportunity instead to attack members of Dáil Éireann, to attack GSOC, to attack the media, to lay blame at the door of the Attorney General, and to lay blame at the door of his own officials. That's what he did. He didn't use the opportunity to accept any responsibility whatsoever for what has happened. No responsibility whatsoever. We have found out that the Gardaí, Irish citizens and their lawyers, have been systematically bugged, that this was known in June of last year. Minister Shatter came in here today and didn't accept any responsibility for not knowing that. He didn't use the opportunity to withdraw his remarks about the whistleblowers, nor did he use the opportunity to address the remarks by the Commissioner. Now, Taoiseach, rightly or wrongly,
question please.
Rightly or wrongly, Minister Shatter no longer commands the respect of the groups of people he needs to command the respect of to do the job that has to be done. And it is for this reason that I believe, and many other people believe, he now needs to step back. So, Taoiseach, can I ask you this? I agree with you. I'm sure everyone in this House agrees with you that the integrity of An Garda Síochána and public trust in An Garda Síochána is of paramount importance, and there is a difficult piece of work to do. The question is Minister Shatter still the best member of Dáil Éireann to drive that work? Because I believe, regrettably, that he no longer is. So can I ask you, do you believe that he is the best person you can find in your party, based on what has happened, to lead that work? Thank you.
I don't stand in judgment in a competition about the criteria that you refer to there. You started off your comment by saying that I had informed the House yesterday that a secret group were bugging Gardaí. I made no such claim. What I said was that it had come to light during the process of discovery that 2,485 tapes existed up to 2008, and that from that point until 2013 that these were recorded in a digital fashion. Now, I think, yes, but in the letter that the previous commissioner sent into the Department of Justice, he said it since transpired that systems would appear to have been installed during the 1980s. So please get your facts right in this case. I did not say that a secret group within the Gardaí were going around bugging Gardaí themselves and the general public. I think it's important also to say, Deputy Donnelly, it's important to say this, Deputy Donnelly, that since November of last year, 27th of November, the non-999 emergency calls, the recording of those has stopped on the instructions of the then Garda Commissioner. Under the law, a right to privacy is given up when a 999 call is made, and you can understand that. But the process of having conversations and calls recorded in a routine fashion in many stations around the country, which began back in the 1980s, was ceased in November of last year on the instructions of the Garda Commissioner and by his letter to the Department of Justice. I think that's an important point to make for members of the public, Deputy Donnelly, who can feel free to make calls of a routine nature to Garda stations around the country, in the knowledge now that they are not being recorded centrally or locally. So I think in the other points that you mentioned are ones that have to be sorted out. And they will be sorted out. And it just shows you the scale of what needs to be done to bring our justice system and our Garda Síochána force so that everybody understands the level of competency and professionalism that they have. I mean, I get material across my desk myself personally, and sometimes it is actually difficult to decipher what to do with it. The scale of charge can be grossly excessive in some cases, but this is what we have to deal with, and this is what we will deal with. And Minister Shatter is not liked by the judiciary, he's not liked by the legal profession, he's not liked by the Gardaí. He mightn't be liked by a lot of people, but I'll give you one thing, he's got the courage to deal with the truth and to change it where it's necessary in the interest of our citizens and our country.
Thank you.
And from that point of view, Donnelly, he's never been afraid to deal with what's been lying under a lot of carpets for many years. And this government will not stand for not having public accountability and for the courage to take on vested interests in the interests of our citizens and our country. And I'll stand by that on any platform.
Thank you. That completes Neil's questions for today.